Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you a really simple way to be able to grow and scale your clinic, but not in the ways that you traditionally think. So a lot of owners, what they do is they want to either join a program or they get new marketing or they hire a new coach or whatever that looks like, and they're looking for the silver bullet. They want to do things quickly and they want to do things right now. Now, as an owner, I'm telling you right now, like, of course you want to be able to join things and be able to get an ROI on your investment, but what I typically see is a lot of owners that come in, they cause a lot of noise. They usually burn out after just a couple years. And one of the things though too, and I've seen this cycle over and over again, where owners come in and they're doing one of two things. They either come in, they cause a lot of noise and they burn out, or what happens is they come in, they grow really, really quickly, but then they don't know how to grow past their shell, right? They have either like one clinic, you know, they're maxed out and they're like, well, I'm cool here, like I'm good. And they have a lot of staff leaving, and they're just constantly replacing staff. So ultimately, if we look at the learning curve, what typically happens is you grow, and then once you max out your facility, what's going to happen is you have two options. You either grow into another facility and open another clinic, or what happens is the law of entropy starts to kick in. Now, for those of you that don't know what the law of entropy is, the law of entropy states that an object at rest will move more and more towards disorder. So if you think about it, when you have that learning curve and you start to sustain a little bit, what's going to happen is you're going to start to dip a little bit. Patients are going to start to no-show cancel. Providers are going to start to lean in and either quit, and then eventually, if you have a provider leave and you don't bring out another provider, you're going to start to, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? When we start to look at this thing, we want to be able to go through these cycles, and these cycles take time. But what we're typically doing here is, if you think about like how a lobster grows, and there's a great YouTube video out there, and it's by a rabbi, and he talks about like becoming the lobster. And what a lobster does is it's like a soft shell, like their bodies are like soft. And eventually what happens is they grow, their bodies grow inside of this constraint, which is the shell. And the shell doesn't grow. So you're like, well, how does a lobster grow? And ultimately what happens is they put pressure up against the shell, and then that sends the hormone release. It sheds the shell, he goes into hiding, safe place, he grows another shell and then comes back and he's got a bigger shell. And he just keeps repeating that process. So lobsters actually grow from the amount of stress that they put on themselves internally, which is really, really interesting to think about, is that when we're looking at our business, we are going to grow to a level and max out the clinic space that we are in. Now, what's going to happen is we either could shed that shell and open a bigger space, which a lot of owners do, or keep that shell and just go and become another lobster and grow another clinic and keep repeating the process. Now, the reason why I tell you guys that is that there's this thing that occurs every couple of years where private equity comes in and they actually scoop up private practices, and it just happened. So at the end of the decade here, 2020, 2021, 22, a lot of people think right now it's because of COVID and people came in, you know, bought clinics on the cheap. It's not the case. Private equity, what they do is every couple of years, they wait for the private industry to grow and expand. They come in, they scoop up these practices to build market share, and then they go ahead and flip it to a bigger entity. So if you don't believe me, go ahead and look at a company like Pivot right now. What they did is they were able to go and acquire all these different companies over the last couple of years, and then they just went over and they sold in one transaction, they sold all these clinics to Athletico. So it's a 900 clinic sale. Boom, they were able to just go and acquire. So what I'm telling you guys is right now, even though it's hard, right? So it's hard running a clinic. It's hard, you know, being able to do your marketing and hiring and sales and all this other stuff. And you might not feel like you're making a ton of money right now, but if you stay in the game long enough, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to acquire multiple clinics, grow and dominate in your area. And then at the end of the decade here, when private equity comes back in, you're gonna have a really nice asset to be able to sell off to them. So that's where you guys are going to be able to have that success, is we want to make sure that we're staying in the game long enough, and we understand that, like, hey, long-term vision, we set it, simple scales, and we want to make sure we outlast the learning curve. Because most owners, what they do is they come in, they hit a certain level and they don't grow past it. They don't learn any more skill sets, and then they actually start to deteriorate. And I hear this all the time, and me and Joey joke about it, where owners will be like, whoa, back in 2018, we were crushing it and we had 3 clinics, and now we don't have that anymore. Or people will be like, well, back in the early 2000s, or back in this, or back in that. And what happened was a lot of owners aren't adaptable to changes, so they don't learn new things. And because they don't learn new things, they look at the past results instead of looking at the future results. Okay, so I want to make sure that you guys outlast the learning curve. So if you guys like this content, go ahead and follow and hit the subscribe button. If you guys want to learn more about setting your vision and learning how to make sure that you guys continue to grow and dominate in your area, go ahead and click on the link in the description to set a call up with our team, and we look forward to meeting you. Take care.